The pipe burst like a confession I wasn't ready to hear, flooding my cramped Brooklyn walk-up with icy water that soaked the floorboards and my last shred of dignity. "Charles, open the goddamn door. It's Joseph." His voice boomed through the peephole, laced with that gruff urgency that always made my stomach twist, even on ordinary days. I yanked it open, drenched and shivering, and there he stood, my landlord, toolbox in hand, flannel shirt clinging to his broad shoulders from the downpour outside, his hazel eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that drowned out the hiss of the leak behind me. I stepped aside, mumbling something about the kitchen faucet giving way under the storm's pressure. But Joseph was already moving, his boots thudding against the wet linoleum like he owned more than just the building. He owned the air in the room. 38. He was the kind of guy who'd built half of Williamsburg's brownstones with his own calloused hands, a relic from the days when craftsmen still mattered in this city of glass towers and ghost jobs. Me, Charles Harlan, 32, freelance graphic designer scraping by on gig apps and ramen, the invisible tenant who'd been dodging rent notices for months. We'd exchanged nods in the hallway, small talk about the Knicks' latest choke, but nothing that hinted at the flood that was about to swallow us both. He dropped to his knees by the sink, wrench clanking against porcelain, water spraying in erratic arcs that caught the fluorescent light like shattered diamonds. "This ain't just a fix," he grunted, twisting the valve shut with a final, decisive yank. The flow died to a drip, and silence rushed in, heavy as the humidity clinging to the walls. I handed him a towel from the counter, faded blue, monogrammed with my ex's initials, a ghost I hadn't exorcised, and our fingers brushed. Electricity, not the kind from faulty wiring, but the raw, buzzing kind that starts in your chest and ends in your throat. Joseph wiped his face, then paused, towel dangling from his fist as he looked up at me. Really looked. Not the landlord scanning for damage, but a man seeing the cracks in another man's armor. "You look like hell, kid. When's the last time you slept?" His voice softened, that Brooklyn edge rounding into something almost tender. I laughed it off, a brittle sound that echoed off the peeling wallpaper, but he didn't join in. Instead, he stood, all 6'2" of him unfolding like a promise, and tossed the towel aside. "Sit. I'm making coffee." "Black, right? Saw you in the lobby once, nursin' that diner sludge." I wanted to protest boundaries, bills unpaid, the fact that my lease was a joke on borrowed time, but my legs betrayed me, carrying me to the sagging couch in the living room. The apartment was a time capsule of my unraveling. Sketches pinned to every surface, takeout boxes stacked like modern art, a single photo of my sister back in Ohio, smiling from a frame I'd dusted religiously. Joseph rummaged in my kitchen like he'd done it 100 times, the percolator gurgling to life as thunder rattled the fire escape. Minutes later, he was back with 2 mugs, steam curling up like secrets begging to be spilled. We sat there, knees almost touching, the rain a relentless drum against the window. He sipped slow, eyes on the storm outside, but I could feel the weight of his gaze pulling back to me. "You know, I fixed this place up after my dad died. Thought it'd be my fresh start. Divorce papers still warm in the drawer. Kid dreamin' of flippin' houses and forgettin' the bullshit." His words tumbled out, unbidden, like the water earlier, messy, unstoppable. I nodded, throat tight, because I'd overheard whispers in the building. Joseph Malone, the straight-arrow contractor who'd lost his wife to some corporate shark in Manhattan, left with a teenage son and a heart full of splinters. But that night, as the coffee cooled and the power flickered, he didn't stop. Ever feel like you're drowning on dry land, Charles? Like the city's got its boot on your neck, and you just smile through it. His hand landed on my knee, heavy and warm, not pulling away. I froze, pulse hammering, because in that touch was a question I'd asked myself in mirrors at 3 a.m., staring at the man I'd hidden from everyone, including myself. Gay in a world that still treated it like a punchline, out only to a therapist who'd ghosted after one session. And Joseph, straight, widowed, the epitome of blue-collar grit, leaning in like he knew the punchline and hated it too. We talked until the storm broke, dawn smearing pink across the skyline. He fixed the pipe for free, of course, but as he packed his tools, he lingered by the door. Come by the site tomorrow. Got a job if you want it, sketchin' blueprints. Pays better than starvin' artist crap. His grin was crooked, boyish, and when he clapped my shoulder, his thumb grazed my collarbone, sending sparks down my spine. I said yes before my brain caught up, and as the door clicked shut, I slid to the floor, heart racing, wondering if I'd just invited the flood back in. The construction site on the edge of Bushwick was a skeleton of steel beams and dangling wires, the kind of place where dreams got built and broken in equal measure. I showed up at 7 a.m. Sharp, sketchpad under my arm, nerves jangling like the jackhammers in the distance. Joseph was there already, hard hat tipped back, barking orders at a crew of guys who moved like they were extensions of his will. When he spotted me, that grin flashed again, pure sunshine cutting through the dust, and he waved me over, introducing me as Charlie, the guy who's gonna make this dump look like a magazine spread. The day blurred into a rhythm I'd forgotten I craved. Pencil scratching over graph paper, Joseph's voice rumbling explanations of load-bearing walls and hidden plumbing, his arm brushing mine as he pointed out angles. Lunch was hero sandwiches from the bodega down the block, eaten on milk crates amid the chaos. And that's when the stories started flowing freer. He talked about his son, Tommy, 15, all gangly limbs and video game obsessions, how the kid's mom had bailed for a life in the Hamptons, leaving Joseph to juggle custody and concrete. He's the only good thing I got left, he said, wiping mustard from his lip, eyes distant. Reminds me why I keep swinging the hammer. I shared scraps of my own wreckage. The move from Cleveland after college, chasing design gigs that evaporated like morning fog. The family that loved me in theory but flinched at the truth I'd never voiced. My sister's the only one who'd get it, I admitted, sketching a flourish on the blueprint. She's got this fierce streak. Marched in her first pride when I was still pretending to swipe right on girls. Joseph's laugh was low, appreciative, and when he squeezed my forearm, sounds like a keeper. The touch lingered a beat too long, heat blooming under my skin. By quitting time, the crew had cleared out, leaving us alone with the echo of hammers and the golden slant of late afternoon sun. We were up on the third floor framing, the city sprawling below like a promise half-kept, when Joseph pulled 2 beers from his cooler, cracking them open with a church key that dangled from his belt. To leaks fixed and lines drawn, he toasted, clinking the bottle against mine. We leaned on a half-wall, shoulders touching, and the conversation dipped into deeper waters. You ever been in love, Charles? The kind that guts you. I took a swig, the bitter fizz grounding me. Once. Thought it was forever. Dude named Ryan. Met him at a gallery opening in Chelsea. turned out forever had an expiration date tied to his closet. The words hung there, raw and unfiltered, the first time I'd said it aloud to anyone in New York. Joseph's face tightened, jaw working like he was chewing on glass. Mine was Elena. High school sweethearts, built a life on sweat and stupid dreams. But she wanted more. Lights, camera, action. I was just the stagehand. He drained his beer, tossing the bottle into a pile of rebar, then turned to me. Stormy. What if I told you I've been thinking about you since that flood? Not as a tenant. More. The world tilted. My heart slammed against my ribs, a wild thing finally uncaged. I set my bottle down, hand trembling as I reached for his, tracing the veins that mapped his forearm like rivers on a forbidden chart. Joseph, you're straight. Married once. Father. Everything I wasn't supposed to want. But his fingers intertwined with mine, rough against smooth, and he pulled me closer, breath warm against my temple. Maybe I'm not as straight as the world's painted me. Maybe I've been waiting for a pipe to burst and wash it all away. Our first kiss was tentative, born of beer and bravery, his lips tasting of hops and hesitation. Then it deepened, hands fisting in flannel and cotton, the sight fading to a blur of possibility. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together, laughter bubbling up like relief. This is crazy, I whispered, but he shook his head, thumb stroking my cheek. Nah. This is alive. That night, he stayed at my place again, not to fix anything, but to map new territories. We cooked spaghetti from a box, sauce splattering like abstract art, and talked until the candles guttered out. In bed, it was slow, exploratory, his body a landscape of scars from falls and fights, mine yielding under touches that felt like homecomings. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of us, he murmured into my hair, "Don't let this be another leak you patch alone." Okay, I'm in. For weeks. It was a secret symphony. Stolen lunches at the site, his truck idling outside my building for midnight pickups, drives to Coney Island where we walked the boardwalk hand in hand, the ocean swallowing our whispers. Tommy even met me once, Dad's new buddy Charlie, over pizza at Junior's, oblivious to the undercurrent that made Joseph's knee press against mine under the table. I started paying rent on time, sketches turning into paid commissions, life stitching itself back with threads of hope. But secrets have a way of corroding from the inside, like pipes left too long in the damp. It started with a knock that wasn't Joseph's, sharp, insistent, like debt collectors who'd finally tracked me down. But when I opened the door, it was Elena, his ex, all Manhattan polish and sharp cheekbones, a leather tote slung over her shoulder like armor. "Charles? I'm looking for Joe. He hasn't picked up Tommy in days." Her voice was clipped, East Side accent slicing through the morning quiet, and in her eyes, I saw the accusation before she even knew what to accuse. I stammered something about him being at the site, but she pushed past, scanning the apartment with a gaze that cataloged every detail. The extra mug on the counter, the flannel draped over the chair, the faint scent of his aftershave lingering like guilt. "You've got his things here," she said. Not a question, turning to me with lips pursed. "What's going on?" He mentioned a friend helping with designs. But this, she trailed off, piecing it together faster than I could deflect. Elena wasn't cruel, just wounded, a woman who'd traded hearth for high-rises and now clawed for control. She sat on the couch, crossing her legs like she owned the narrative. And unloaded. The divorce had been her fault. Sure. Chasing ambition while Joseph played dad and handyman. But he'd changed after, retreating into work and whiskey. He's not. Like that, she said finally, the words landing like a verdict. Joe's always been straight as they come. If you're messing with his head, I'm not. I cut in, heat rising in my chest. We're just figuring it out. But even as I said it, doubt crept in, a shadow under the floorboards. She'd left him broken, yes, but what if I'd become the next fracture? She left with Tommy's weekend bag, a promise to sort this, and I texted Joseph, your ex just stopped by. Drama incoming. His reply was quick, shit. Meet me at the bar on Myrtle. Now, the Rusty Nail was our neutral ground, dim lit with neon signs buzzing like trapped fireflies, the kind of dive where secrets felt safe in the haze of cigarette ghosts. He was at the corner booth when I arrived, nursing a whiskey neat, face etched with lines that hadn't been there last week. We ordered wings, buffalo, extra celery, his ritual for stress, and he dove in without preamble. Elena's been Callan. Says Tommy's the skin questions, picking up on my distractions. His hand found mine under the table, thumb circling my knuckles, but his eyes dodged mine, flicking to the door like he expected interruption. I told her we're friends. Nothing more. Can't blow up the kid's world yet. The word stung, rational but razor-edged. Friends, I echoed, pulling back just enough to feel the chill. Is that all this is, Joe? A distraction from the ex who ghosted you? He winced, reaching for me again, but I held up a hand. I get it. The custody fight's brutal. Lawyers circling like vultures. But hiding me? It makes me feel like the leak you fixed and forgot. He slammed his glass down, ice clinking like accusations. You think this is easy? I'm 38. Charles, divorced, broke half the time, raising a boy who needs his dad whole. And yeah, I'm scared shitless because what if this, changes everything? What if I fuck it up like I did with her? His voice cracked, raw as exposed wiring. And in that vulnerability, I saw the man who'd kissed me on the boardwalk, not the landlord playing house. We made up in the alley behind the bar, rain-slicked and urgent, his mouth claiming mine with a desperation that erased the doubt. You're not a distraction, he growled against my neck, hands framing my face. You're the goddamn foundation. Back at my place, we proved it, bodies entwined in a tangle of need and forgiveness, the city lights painting us in strokes of silver and shadow. But the cracks widened. Tommy started showing up unannounced, wide-eyed and curious, crashing our fragile routine. Dad's happier lately, he'd say, munching on my cereal, oblivious to the tension coiling in Joseph's shoulders. Elena escalated, texts turning to voicemails laced with concern. He's spiraling, Charles. Don't let him drag you down too. I ignored them, burying myself in work. Blueprints for Joseph's next flip. A freelance logo for a queer bookstore in the village that paid just enough to breathe. Then came the betrayal, sharp as a snap joist. It was a Friday, site wrapping early, and I headed over with takeout from that Thai place on Knickerbocker, Pad CEW, his favorite, extra lime. The crew was gone, but Joseph's truck was there, and laughter spilled from the trailer office, low and intimate. I pushed the door open, heart light, and froze. There he was, on the battered couch, Elena perched beside him, not ex, but confidant, her hand on his thigh, his arm around her shoulders. Tommy was across the room, fiddling with a model truck, but the air was thick with reconciliation, the kind that rewrites histories. "Joe?" My voice was a whisper, takeout bag crumpling in my fist. They sprang apart, Joseph's face draining of color. "Charles, it's not." But Elena cut him off, standing with that regal poise. "This is family time. You should go." Tommy looked up, confused, and in his eyes, I saw the innocence I was about to shatter. Joseph stood, reaching for me, but I backed away, the door banging shut behind me as I bolted into the dusk. Rain started again, fitting, soaking me to the bone as I ran the blocks home. Betrayal a weight that no wrench could fix. He'd chosen them, the straight life, the easy script, leaving me to drown in the aftermath. The apartment felt like a tomb that weekend, walls closing in with echoes of Joseph's laugh, the ghost of his cologne on my pillow. I didn't answer his calls. 27 by Sunday night, voicemails piling up like unpaid bills. "Baby, let me explain. It's not what you think." But I knew exactly what it was. A retreat to safety, the kind of choice that guts you slower than a knife. I powered off my phone, cracked a window to the relentless patter of rain, and pulled out the sketch pad, pencils flying in furious strokes, twisted beams, fractured skylines, a heart rendered in rebar and regret. Monday dawned gray, the kind of Brooklyn gloom that seeps into your bones. I dragged myself to the site, not for him, but for the crew who'd become tentative friends over shared smokes and bad jokes. Joseph was there, of course, hard hat low over eyes ringed with exhaustion, directing pores like nothing had cracked. Our gazes met across the concrete, a jolt that nearly buckled my knees, but I turned away, focusing on the elevations I'd mocked up before the fall. He cornered me at lunch, pulling me into the supply shed amid stacks of drywall and the metallic tang of sawdust. "Charles, goddamn it, talk to me." His voice was wrecked, hands hovering like he wanted to shake sense into us both. I leaned against a pallet, arms crossed, the takeout betrayal still sour in my throat. "What is there to say, Joe? You and Elena, cozy as hell. Tommy's world intact. Mission accomplished." He raked a hand through his hair, pacing the narrow space. "She showed up Friday. Yeah, crying about how Tommy's grades are tanking, how he misses normal. We talked, hashed out more custody crap. But it wasn't intimate. Not like us." He stepped closer, voice dropping to that gravelly plea. "I told her about you. About us." She flipped, called it a phase, a midlife crisis. But I stood my ground, said you're the realest thing I felt since Elena walked out. I wanted to believe him, the pull toward his warmth a tide I couldn't fight forever. Then why the arm around her? Why the thigh touch? My words cracked, vulnerability spilling out. He closed the gap, hands gentle on my hips, pulling me flush. Habit. Old patterns dying hard. But this, he kissed me then, fierce and claiming, the shed spinning into irrelevance. We surfaced gasping, foreheads together, and whispered promises. Dates in the open, slow intros to Tommy, a life beyond leaks and lies. The thaw was tentative, but real. We rebuilt brick by brick. Dinners at his place in Bed-Stuy, where Tommy grilled me on superheroes over mac and cheese. Walks in Prospect Park, hands brushing in plain sight, testing the world's indifference. Elena backed off, her voicemails shifting to wary civility. If he makes you happy, fine. But hurt my boy, and we're done. Joseph started therapy. Some grizzled ex-cop turned counselor in Flatbush, unpacking the straitjacket of his upbringing, the Catholic guilt that had him marrying young and loving quiet. Summer unfurled in humid waves, the city pulsing with pride flags that felt like banners for our own parade. We celebrated low-key, a rooftop barbecue at my building, just us and a cooler of beers, the skyline exploding in fireworks that mirrored the sparks between us. To foundations that hold, Joseph toasted, pulling me onto his lap, lips brushing my ear. That night, under the stars and strobe lights, we made love on a blanket, slow and sacred, bodies sinking like blueprints finally aligned. But climax brews in the calm, and ours hit like a nor'easter, unannounced, unrelenting. It was late August, the site nearing completion, when Tommy overheard a call. I was at Joseph's, sketching in the living room while he grilled burgers, the kid in his room blasting hip-hop. The phone rang, Elena's number, and Joseph answered on speaker by accident. Voice casual. Yeah, babe, Charlie's here. Passin' the mustard. Silence from the other end. Then Tommy bursting out, eyes wide with a hurt that aged him overnight. Dad? Who's Charlie really? The burgers burned as Joseph fumbled explanations. But Tommy connected dots faster than we'd hoped. Snippets from school friends about gay stuff. The way his dad looked at me different. You're like that? With him, the accusation hung. Innocent venom. And Joseph knelt, voice steady. Yeah, but Charlie's important to me. More than a friend. And that's okay. Love's love. Tommy bolted to his room, door slamming like Judgment Day. Elena arrived an hour later, scooping him up in a whirlwind of tears and ultimatums. Full custody or bust. Joseph's lifestyle a threat to stability. The lawyers descended, papers flying like confetti at a funeral. Affidavits citing unconventional relationships as instability. Elena's new fiancé a golden boy with a trust fund and picket fence vibes. We fought back. Joseph raging in courtrooms that smelled of old varnish and older biases. Me testifying to his devotion, the home he'd built. But the judge, a silver-haired holdout from another era, leaned Elena's way, granting her primary custody with supervised visits. Joseph came home shattered, punching the wall until his knuckles split, blood streaking the paint like accusations. I lost him, Charles. Because of us. I held him through the sobs, the kind that rack a man's soul, whispering that love wasn't the villain here. But doubt festered. Had I been the leak all along, eroding his world, nights blurred into arguments, his resentment flaring hot. You get it, right? The straight path was easier. Why'd you have to make me choose? I fire back. Wounded. Choose? You chose me first, Joe. Or was that just another fix? The breaking point came in October, leaves carpeting the streets in crimson regret. We were at the site. Finished now. A gleaming co-op for young professionals who'd never know the blood in the beams. When Elena called with news, Tommy was thriving, therapy helping him adjust. But attached was an email chain, forwarded by accident. Joseph's old texts to a bar buddy, post-divorce confessions of confusion. Felt something for this guy at work. Man. Freaked me out. Better stick to what's safe. Dated weeks before our flood. Betrayal. Round 2 digital this time. Cutting deeper. I confronted him in the empty lobby, voice echoing off marble. You were scared of me? Of us? From the start. He deflated, head in hands. I was lost, Charles. Still am. But I chose you every day since. Lies or love? The line blurred, and I walked out, the door sealing with finality. Winter clamped down on Brooklyn like a vice, snow piling against my windows in drifts that matched the numbness in my chest. I moved, nothing dramatic, just a sublet in Greenpoint, closer to freelance hubs but worlds away from Joseph's orbit. The crew sent care packages, 6-packs and scribbled notes. Miss your ugly mug, Charlie. But I ghosted them too, burying in work that paid but hollowed. Sketches turned sterile, clients praising the edgy minimalism, blind to the void they sprang from. Joseph tried flowers at my door, voicemails that started gruff and ended broken. Merry Christmas, kid. Tommy asks about you. Says your stories were better than mine. I listened in the dark, tears freezing on my lashes. But pride was a stubborn tenant, refusing eviction. Pride Month had come and gone without us. The parade a specter on TV, rainbows mocking my grayscale world. Spring thawed the ice, but not the rift. I ran into Tommy at the park, him with a sketchbook of his own, copying pigeons with a focus that twisted my gut. Charlie, he lit up, hugging awkward and fierce, then pulled back. I serious. Dad's a mess. Won't fix nothing right. Says his hands shake thinking of you. We sat on a bench, sketching side by side, his lines bolder than mine. Mom's cool now, says love's weird but okay. But Dad, he misses you like crazy. The kid's honesty cracked me open, spilling truths I dammed up. Joseph wasn't the villain, just a man terrified of losing more. Betrayal? Maybe self-preservation. The email's a snapshot of fear, not fact. I drove to Bed-Stuy that night, heart pounding like the first flood, knocking with knuckles bruised by months of silence. He opened the door in sweats and stubble, eyes widening like dawn breaking. Charles, no defenses, just raw hope. We stood there, threshold between us, until he stepped aside, and I crossed it, home, after all this time. Words tumbled. Apologies for the hiding, the hesitation. Confessions of love that had deepened in absence. Humanistic in its messiness. I was scared too, I admitted, hands framing his face. Of being the phase. The ruin. He pulled me inside, door shutting on the past. And we talked till stars wheeled overhead about therapy breakthroughs, Tommy's acceptance, Elena's olive branch of co-parenting without claws. We're not fixed, he said, lacing fingers with mine. But we're buildin'. Together. The ending wasn't fireworks or forever vows, just steady reconstruction. We moved in together that summer. A fixer-upper in Crown Heights with good bones and bad plumbing. Tommy visiting weekends. His artwork on the fridge a testament to blended lives. Joseph proposed on the fire escape. Ring simple silver. Rain pattering like applause. Marry me, Charles. Let's leak a little. Love a lot. I said yes. Tears mixing with the downpour. Because in America, the gritty, flawed heart of it, love wasn't a straight line or a perfect blueprint. It was floods and fractures, betrayals mended with bare hands, secrets unveiled into something human, whole. We built from there, one joist at a time, proving that even in the deluge, foundations hold if you choose them right. And on quiet nights, with the city humming below. We'd lie tangled, his heartbeat my anchor, whispering gratitude for the pipe that burst and the man who stayed.